I just came back from watching the latest Superman movie, and you may be wondering whether it's worth it, and importantly, whether it actually, as some people say, is a pro-Palestinian movie. And yes to both questions. Now, with the opening scenes, it was kind of, it wasn't quite clear cut whether, these two opposing parties, which are kind of the background story of this film, whereby you got one nation invading another nation. I thought the influences weren't necessarily based on Israel and Palestine, but rather Russia and Ukraine. Only that the circumstances are just too coincidental. I'll give you three reasons, if not more, as to why it actually reflects Israel and Palestine, even if it's not intentional. Even though, James Gunn himself, who directed the film, and even if the actors like David Corenswet, who's amazing, he's great Superman here, may be naive or may reject the political implications of it and reflecting the political reality on the ground. Irrespective of that, good art, really good art, comes from the subconscious, unconscious, and it reflects in a way what is going on in the collective unconscious. Carl Jung talked about this. So even if it wasn't conscious, it's got stark, kind of canny, kind of like really, kind of like there's kind of like reflections in kind of a mirror image of what's going on right now. So, in a nutshell, this movie is very much reflection of what's going on right now, because, for one, you have two nations in a background in this movie, and kind of like it's kind of a theme throughout the whole movie, or rather the plot throughout the whole movie is Boravia, which is this highly technologically advanced nation, invading, or on the cusp of invading a nation, Johanpur, which Superman himself is thwarting the efforts of. Now, the way the president of Boravia talks, it kind of has a Russian accent, which might imply that it's a reflection of Ukraine and Russia. Only that this nation, this is the reason one, Boravia is a highly technologically advanced nation, and it's attacking defenseless people who are not necessarily technologically advanced. So that does not reflect Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine is not technologically, it's more equal in that regard. Even irrespective of the fact that Boravia, like Russia, is invading another nation, it is still there is still fight back. Whereas Johanpur does not have. Johanpur is very much, defenseless, which reflects what's going on Israel and Palestine. And Boravia, like Israel, doesn't mind killing innocent, as we see in the movie. And number two, Israel is an ally of the US, and in this movie, Boravia is an ally of the US, which obviously does not reflect the allyship of Russia with America. Of course, America's more towards the side of Ukraine, even if Trump wants so badly to be in the good graces of Putin. And as a state apparatus, the US is very much aligned with Ukraine and serving or protecting Ukraine's interests. And so that too does not reflect, Russia and Israel, Russia and Ukraine, but it does reflect Israel, irrespective of whether Israel himself, as a nation, is a liability to US politics because it's diverting away from the peer competitor, which is China. John Mearsheimer talks about this a lot, how Israel itself is a liability to the greater implications of the US foreign policy in diverting a lot of tension, of a lot of funding away from the US's true competitor, which is China. And number three, you got Lex Luthor, who is arguably an Elon Musk type character, taking the side of the Bravia, the more technologically advanced nation, and this is very much aligned with the billionaires in society, how it's often taking the side of Israel in today's society. And Lex Luthor very much is an Elon Musk type character, even though Elon Musk himself doesn't, rather his corporate industries don't really, not specifically aligned with military companies. Although I would not be surprised if he does aid in a lot of military-based technology. There's a lot of things going on in the background which we are not privy to. And of course, there's more than that. There's another reason too. Jahanpur very clearly are brown. Baravian people are clearly not brown, they're white. Which shows you kind of it's an attack on a more global South nation, a poorer nation, more technologically less advanced nation. They may have a different way, may have a different kind of perspective on governing their country, and this is reflected in just the way that how people who are in support of Jahanpur, like one of the characters in New York, is very much sympathetic to Superman because he is aligned with supporting Jahanpur, the innocent people of Jahanpur. And reason number 5, this movie is very much got a conscience, and it's about preserving the life of any innocent person, irrespective of where you're from, which is very much antithetical against the just the whole notion of Israel as a state and everything that it does. So that's why I get 5 reasons, but there's probably more out there as to why this movie reflects what is going on in Israel and Palestine, and why you should go and see the movie. And yes, there are issues with this kind of rampant consumerism, and how consumerism of media, of even the news, can distract us from taking political action. At the same time, there's a great power in media and preserving culture and enlightening, opening our eyes up in kind of some metaphorical way, whilst being entertaining. And I think this movie is a reflection of a greater good happening here. But obviously, this should be aligned, or rather coincide with political action, protest. Using a word, doing videos, or just talking to friends, debating people, even taking political actions, doing petitions, as well as talking to MP, voting, and getting involved with grassroots political action. All of this is very important. And of course, something like a Superman is, pales in comparison to the actual political effort you can take. But politics follows culture, and we should really appreciate the kind of the culture that comes, and the cultural grassroots improvement in media. How Superman is no longer a CIA kind of funded project. It's more aligned with humanitarian outlook, and we should be very much hopeful and optimistic about this kind of media. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. That'd be very much appreciated. Thank you.